Have you ever stopped to think about something kind of weird? How did ancient cultures, people separated by oceans and centuries, all stumble upon the exact same strange ideas for healing? From Egypt to Greece to China, it's like they were all reading from the same secret playbook. Well, today we're going to decode that playbook. Because when you really dig into it, a bizarre pattern jumps out. For most of human history, the go-to treatment for sickness wasn't a pill, it wasn't some magic potion, it was poking, burning, and even bleeding people. It seems crazy to us now, right? So what was going on? What did they all know that maybe we've forgotten? That's the puzzle we're piecing together today. And listen, this was not some one-off thing. This was a global movement. You go way back to ancient Egypt, 3500 BC, and they're already writing about therapeutic burning. Fast forward a bit to Greece, you've got Hippocrates, the father of medicine, mapping out bloodletting, and at the very same time, halfway across the world in China, they're laying the groundwork for acupuncture. There's no way this is a coincidence. This was some kind of universal human insight into how the body works. All right, so to crack this mystery, our first clue comes from a chapter of Western medicine that's been almost totally forgotten. It was a powerful idea they called counter-irritation. And the whole concept is wrapped up perfectly in this one line from Hippocrates himself. He said, "The stronger pain lessens the other." The big idea is actually pretty simple. You can fight an old, out-of-control pain by creating a new controlled pain. You're basically creating a counter signal that distracts the body and cancels out the original problem. And wow, did they run with this idea? This wasn't some back alley folk remedy. This was the absolute mainstream of medicine for centuries. They had a whole arsenal of physical methods, burning, cupping, even just massage, and they had what was basically a chemical pharmacy of irritants, mustard plasters, garlic, ammonia, all designed to trigger a small, controlled reaction on the skin to treat something going on deep inside. So, how mainstream are we talking? Well, in the 18th century, one of the most respected doctors in Britain, William Heberden, went through his records, and what he found was incredible. He was using some form of counter-irritation to treat over half, 51%, of all the common diseases he saw. Think about that. This wasn't a last resort, it was a cornerstone of medicine. Okay, so that's clue number one from the West. Now, let's jump over to the East for our second clue. We tend to think of things like acupuncture as this totally separate, mysterious tradition. But what if it's just another way of talking about the exact same thing? Check this out. In those old Western medical books, they're constantly talking about finding the right seat for the treatment, a very specific spot on the body where you apply the stimulus. Now look at the East. They called it the acupoint. But look at the descriptions. They're identical. Both traditions, completely independently, figured out that to make this work, you can't just do it anywhere. You have to find the perfect spot. So what is this right spot? Is it like a tiny button under your skin? Well, the modern way of thinking about it, which is really informed by these ancient practices, is that an acupoint isn't a fixed thing. It's more like a state point, an area that only becomes active or tender when something is wrong inside your body. It's like a warning light that lights up on your skin to signal an internal problem. When those old doctors said, treat the point of pain, they meant it literally. It was a diagnostic tool. So we have the West using counter-irritation at a specific seat, and we have the East using acupuncture at a specific acupoint. This is where it all clicks into place. These weren't two different medical theories. They were two different languages describing one single universal biological system. You see, ancient Chinese philosophy had this beautiful way of looking at it in 3 tiers. On the biggest, cosmic level, they saw the whole universe as an interaction between opposing forces. Then they brought it down to the biological level. A living body is just constantly in a state of stimulus and response with its environment to stay in balance. And that leads you right to the third level, medicine. Healing, then, is just the intentional use of a stimulus to tap into that natural response system and guide the body back to health. Okay, I know this all sounds very elegant and philosophical, but you might be thinking, does any of this actually hold up today with modern science? And the answer is a resounding yes. It turns out these ancient doctors were observing something very, very real. Let's start with something called the pain gate theory, which came about in 1965. The idea is actually pretty simple. Imagine your spinal cord has a kind of neurological gate that decides which pain signals get through to your brain. Well, a sharp, intense signal from a stimulus, like a needle or a hot plaster, races to that gate and basically slams it shut before the duller, chronic pain signals from your illness can get through. The strong signal literally beats the weak one to the punch. It's exactly what Hippocrates observed, just explained with neuroscience. And get this, here is a perfect real-world example from the 1890s. A doctor named James Mackenzie had a patient with horrific pain from a stomach ulcer. So what did he do? He put an irritant on the skin right over the stomach, which created a small blister. And the result? The deep internal ulcer pain vanished instantly. Without even knowing the term, he had closed the pain gate. But that still leaves one huge question, right? How did he know to put the blister there? The answer is a wild phenomenon called referred pain. It turns out your nervous system is wired up in segments, like an electrical grid, connecting your internal organs to specific zones on your skin. So when an organ is in trouble, your brain sometimes gets its wires crossed and thinks the pain is coming from the skin. It's why a heart attack can make your arm hurt. This neurological map is what ancient healers discovered over centuries, identifying all those seats and acupoints that were the secret gateways to our internal organs. So when you put all these pieces together, what's the big takeaway? Well, it suggests that maybe we should completely reframe the kinds of questions we ask about medicine and healing. For the last few decades, we've been stuck in this old debate, We ask these very narrow questions like, does acupuncture work for back pain, or does cupping work for sore muscles? But what this history shows us is that maybe that's the wrong question entirely. The new question, the much more profound and exciting question, is how does this incredible built-in stimulus response system in our bodies actually work? Instead of just testing the tools one by one, maybe we should be studying the fundamental machine that all the tools are designed to turn on. And that kind of leaves us with this final thought. We think of modern medicine, real medicine, as starting with a pill. But the true story of healing, the one shared by every culture on Earth, began with something much more fundamental, a stimulus. It started with the deep understanding that the body has its own incredibly powerful ability to heal itself, if we can just figure out how to send it the right signals. Maybe the future of medicine isn't only about inventing new things, but about finally remembering and truly mastering this hidden code of healing that's been with us all along.